So, can we have a slide there, Jonathon? And we go with Salvia Divinorum. How many people have tried Salvia Divinorum? Just a few. Very interesting plant. For many years it's languished as considered to be a real minor, if at all, effective theatrical plant. And the reason for that is many people have never have tried it and nothing's happened. And that's been largely the method that has been circulated about how it's used. And I'd like to express an idea that came to me last week in thinking about this. Since there's so many of these plants that are being recently introduced into art, culture, or subculture from other places, they're coming in with, this is a one-shot chance to introduce new plants with the, as Terence said, the meanings that go with these, shorthand descriptions of what becomes the slogan or the thing that's attached to it, like, and often they're false or misunderstandings. For example, with peyote, the tufts have strychnine. I mean, isn't that kind of a thing that goes with it, peyote in the conceptual?
That's not true?
Thing? It's not true at all, no. In fact, people have experimented with taking lots and lots of just the tufts to prove that in big bananas. It's just a myth. It's a rumor. And a meme, in essence, these plants come into our culture with, well, as they're introduced, it's real critical. What are the meanings that are attached to these things? And they're, like with salvia, what came in with that was the literature reports that you chew up, up to 100 leaves or more. And chewing them up and swallowing or make juice out of it and drink it. And those methods don't really work when people have tried it. One of our colleagues, Brad, whose name has come up many times this week, has apprenticed with the Mazatec family for 8 years now, going each year. And he always ends up there in the season when mushrooms aren't happening. And this family uses mushrooms, morning glory seeds, and Salvia Divinorum. And the method that they use the salvia with him is to take 13 pairs of the leaves, and they're stacked up, and they're leaves about yay big. This is just the flowering tops from the greenhouse, so they're not really, the leaves aren't really that as large as they are low down. They get double or triple the length in sizes. Pass that around.
Here you can see the full size leaf and the smaller leaves and the flowers.
Sometimes the leaves will be almost that size.
Does it matter if you use the mature leaves or the younger leaves?
No, it doesn't matter. It's just the quantity.
I tried to pick size-wise, as big as the back.
Yeah, this would be about full size of a good, really good large leaf. Generally, they're smaller. And these are stacked. The traditional method that Brett has been introduced is they're stacked up. It's rolled up like a cigar, and they say to nibble them slowly until this log of salvia leaves has been chewed, and they're swallowed. And his reports, I mean, I didn't really believe him either, because it just hasn't worked for people trying this in experimental subculture here. But his reports were that indeed, and they take it at night in silence, and they say it sounds like a dog barking in the village. That interrupts the thing, and they shut down the ceremony, sing the entire time also. But otherwise it's silence and complete darkness. The last candle goes out when the leaves are presented to chew. And his reports were amazing, that it was completely transforming. He had no idea how to navigate this very different dimensional space. He had no sensation of having a body or an identity, just an awareness, and that awareness being in a very unfamiliar dimensional universe that had nothing to do with being in Mazatec land or being in a room or sitting in a chair. He no longer had any awareness of that. It lasts about 45 minutes and then wears off. But this is something that really, I don't think hardly anyone's been able to reproduce this effect with homegrown leaves. He's one of the few people that insists that it works. Well, last year, a group of people had been trying to figure out how to make this work, and myself included, and came up with the method that works. And it does relate to the way the Mazateks take it, but only around the back door, kind of. This is the method that works for salvia. 6 to 10 leaves, and I generally take 13 leaves, but it depends on the size, but 6 to 10 leaves like this. Chew them up, but don't swallow the saliva. Don't swallow the leaves. Just chew them up really well, and it's all about absorbing it through your mouth. And I sort of push it all around under my tongue and the sides of my cheeks and just hold the slurry and keep it moving around. You end up with a lot of saliva. The leaves are bitter, but not impossibly bitter.
You don't swallow the saliva.
You don't swallow any of it, no. And hold it in your mouth. And at 10 minutes on your watch, almost precisely for everyone, at 10 minutes it comes on. And it comes on gently but quickly. My recommendation is do it in the dark without visual distractions, and you'll see what happens. If you try this, you'll know what I mean. After 10 minutes, you'll understand the experience. Universally, people get a profound experience trying this quid chewing method. And how that relates to the way the Mazateks do it traditionally is that, well, as Jonathon was saying, they believe that the plant, they say that the plant came from outside, that it's not a long tradition of use in Mazatec culture, that it was introduced somehow in the past, in the relatively recent past. And so maybe they never really had a lot of time to experiment with how to make it work properly. It works for them when they chew this many leaves because slowly nibbling it takes at least 10 minutes. And so, in effect, you've got this stuff in your mouth for 10 minutes. They're swallowing it, that's irrelevant. And people in our subculture that have tried it, because it's bitter, wolf it down, thinking that you want to get it into your stomach. And the same with juicing it and swallowing the juice. It doesn't work. Putting it in a blender with water and chugging it doesn't work. It's all about absorption through the mouth.
Do you put anything like when people chew coca leaves?
There's no lime, no other additives.
But I might mention that the Mazateks do make juice, as I described. They crush up the leaves on an Italian or water or strain that and drink that. And there are reports that it does work. That works for the Hope nuns, for example. Mm-hmm. And we can't say that it doesn't work. It works much, much better.
And it could well be that holding that juice in the mouth would be the equivalent effect.
Yeah, they swallow it though.
Salvinorin A is the compound that's now known almost certainly to be the active principle.
You might mention smoking.
Yeah, smoking the dried leaves has a marijuana-like effect. That's the reputation. Some people get it, some people don't. Me, I smoke a joint of dried salvia leaves, and it's a bit like cannabis. It's different. It's short. It lasts maybe half an hour. You notice something's different. I notice something's different with my awareness, but it's not very profound. Other people, one toke, and their body starts falling apart in little cubes on the floor and melt into a puddle.
I get the same effect from smoking as chewing. It's not potent. It's not cannabis. It's definitely salty.
Anyway, chewing this quid of leaves is the way to do it. Do it in the dark, lay down, and just wait. 10 minutes, you'll have this. The experience is many people report it with consistent variables. It's dimensional. It's about topography and not 3 dimensions, but some other experience of dimensions. This is the table, room. The linear 3 dimensions don't apply there. I agree with Brett. That's why it seems so hard to navigate and unfamiliar. It's really, literally about time and dimensions, a new experience of that.
And curved space,
right?
Well, a cylinder or a tube or a sphere.
What duration is that?
It lasts about 45 minutes. During the chewing of this thing, laying down, should someone knock on your door or the phone rings, you can turn the light on, get up and walk over to the phone, talk perfectly normally, turn the light back off, lay down, and it'll come back on again. It's really easy to shake it off, despite the fact that it's pretty profound what's happening. That's why it's recommended to do it in the dark, because you don't want to superimpose the experience on 3-dimensional reality. It's Zen-like in that if you concentrate real hard, you don't get it. If you just shift back, it happens. It's dramatic, but it's subtle. Not really that subtle. That's not the right word. It's not so compelling that you can't shake it off by getting up. But yeah, you don't really want to get up and move around that much. Jonathon made an experiment once, real casually, before he had to go to dinner at his relative's place, and he was testing chewing 6 leaves or something, but he took it out of his mouth, realizing he had to go to dinner, and was really intoxicated for another hour. In broad daylight, with something to do. Anyway, that works. Now,
What do you do with the quid?
some people take it out at 10 minutes, and then its duration's shorter. Other people believe that if you keep holding it in your mouth, it keeps lasting. I don't know. I've never had it last more than 45 minutes by holding it in the entire time. And then I've ended up swallowing the stuff. You can spit it out. It's, yeah, so it works smoking it. It works with this quid method. It's definitely the way to go. 6 leaves is really works. I take 13 just because it's a Mayan number. But it's not necessary. And so you can imagine growing one plant, you can harvest 6 leaves pretty regularly. I've noticed a thing about cultivating it that's interesting. I have a long greenhouse full of it along one side. They're flowering right now. When I left, at least they were in early January. They flower in December, January. Maybe 10 feet tall, the plants, in beds. And sometimes, this may be related to the fact that it's a cloned plant. It hasn't been found in nature. It doesn't make seeds. It's produced from cuttings. But each of the families, once again, like the ayahuasca traditions, they don't share their clones. So there's several. It's only found on 2 hills in Mazatec territory at a certain elevation, and there's only so many families that live up there. So it's one of the world's rarest plants in essence. But it's also a cultivar. It's never been found in the wild. These people grow it around the edges of their coffee plantations or under the trees. It likes pretty much full shade and lots of humidity. But I think because of this, it's been grown from cuttings for so long. It has a strange genetic flaw. I think it has a latent virus. Periodically, the leaves will come out under stress, curled and funny, mutated, like a virus. It gets expressed periodically under stress, but it'll grow out of that. But an interesting thing that I've noticed happening since having so much of it is once in a while on branches, a shoot will come out. Instead of having the opposite leaves, it will have 3 leaves. And it'll be hexagon shaped, the stem instead of square. And so it's producing another 1/3 as many leaves as it grows. And I'm propagating that clone because it's more, it's great. You get more out of it faster. Then I noticed there's one that makes 4 leaves at every junction. So it's twice as many leaves produced. And I hope that stays steady as a clone. It may revert back to the normal form. But there's those 2 new forms of it coming along down the tubes. Brett, fortunately, has collected from 2 different families, different strains. There's the Wasson strain that has been around for a while. There's what we call the palatable strain, and it's not very bitter. It tastes like off-tasting lettuce. Yeah.
Is it available generally for some medicinal purpose? Or
No.
How can you get it?
Yeah, we sell live plants of it and dried leaves of it. I was considering setting up a service to airship overnight fresh leaves, but that's a hassle.
But Rob, don't you think now that the pure compound has been isolated, that it probably has greater potential to be a craze than anything we've seen in 30 years?
Well, the pure compound is maybe too alarming.
Incredibly intense and active in microgram quantities, 300 to 500 micrograms smoke. That's absolutely reality obliterating. I don't want to. I mean, are you deliberately not mentioning it?
No, I'll get into it. This is coming from someone that
I
thinks DMT is
would
shocking.
run it as a headline and not torment people with the obscurantes. the hottest news.
Many people have never have tried it and nothing's happened, and that's been largely the method that this has been circulated about how it's used. And I'd like to express an idea that came to me last week in thinking about this. Since there's so many of these plants that are being recently introduced into agriculture or subculture from other places, they're coming in with, this is a one-shot chance to introduce new plants with the, as Terence said, the meanings that go with these, shorthand descriptions of what becomes the slogan or the thing that's attached to it. So, can we have a slide there, Jonathon? And we go with Salvia Divinorum. How many people have tried Salvia Divinorum? Just a few. Very interesting plant. For many years it's languished as considered to be a real minor, if at all, effective and theoretical plant. And the reason it's like, and often they're false or misunderstandings. For example, with peyote, the tufts have strychnine. I mean, isn't that kind of a thing that goes with it, peyote, in the conceptual
That's not true?
thing? It's not true at all, no. No, in fact, people have experimented with taking lots and lots of just the tufts to prove that in big banana. It's just a myth. It's a rumor. And a meme, in essence. These plants come into our culture with, well, as they're introduced, it's real critical. What are the meanings that are attached to these things? And they're, like with salvia, what came in with that was the literature reports that you chew up, up to 100 leaves or more.